In this lesson, we'll discuss change management. Now, in our modern business environments, we cannot help but to encounter changes in our daily work. Whether it's introducing new software into our systems or implementing a new organizational structure across your corporate network, change is both inescapable and a necessity for your organization to be able to continually adapt to our ever-changing needs inside of our businesses. But implementing these changes requires precision, planning, and a structured approach to avoid creating outages and other significant issues for your end users. Now, to help control these changes, we often rely on change management policies and procedures. Change management is the orchestrated strategy to transition teams, departments, or entire organizations from their existing state to a more desirable future state. Now, this is pivotal in our organization's operations because we need to ensure changes are properly controlled and implemented using a plan, otherwise, chaos will occur. Now, if a change is not properly planned and coordinated, your employees could resist or even fear that given change. For example, if you're going to migrate your entire workforce from an older version of Microsoft Office to a newer version, this may not seem like such a big deal if you have a very technologically literate workforce. But I can tell you from personal experience that even moving from something as simple as going from one legacy version of Microsoft Office to something like Microsoft Office 365 can really create a lot of confusion for your less technologically savvy users, and this will generate an enormous amount of calls to your support desk if you don't have a solid plan in place to train all of your users before, during, and after that change is being implemented. Now, really, at the core of this issue is that our existing processes will become disrupted by any kind of change, and these processes are the things that ensure our company is functioning efficiently and effectively. But by implementing change management, we can ensure that regardless of how large or small the adjustment that's being introduced into your organization is, that it actually will become seamlessly integrated into your existing architecture and processes so that we can maximize the positive outcomes that we're seeking to achieve while minimizing any potential disruption. Now, for a change to occur, that change must first be approved. Each organization will create its own processes and procedures for the approval of changes inside of your change management process, but it is important to remember that you can't simply decide to install a piece of software or change a given configuration on a system without going through an appropriate approval process. Additionally, before that change gets approved, it needs to undergo an assessment process to determine if the change will add value to the organization or if it can be implemented successfully with minimal disruptions to your business's current operations. So, who is able to approve a change within a given organization? Well, usually this function will be performed by the CAB, which is the Change Advisory Board. Now, your Change Advisory Board, or CAB, also known as the CAB, it's going to be a body of representatives from various parts of your organization that all play a crucial role in evaluating the ramifications of any proposed changes. Now, this Change Advisory Board is really focused on conducting the due diligence on a proposed change before it's approved and scheduled for implementation. The Change Advisory Board is responsible for assessing the viability of the change, its potential impacts, and whether or not it aligns with the organization's broader objectives. Now, every proposed change should have a change owner. The change owner is an individual or sometimes a team of people that's going to be responsible for the initiation of the change request. This owner is going to be the advocate for the change, and they're going to be the ones who detail the reasons why that change is necessary, its potential benefits, and the challenges that that change might present during its implementation. Now, these changes will not happen in isolation. After all, we're going to be making a configuration change, installing a new piece of hardware, or running some kind of software on our organization's systems, and all of these actions will have an impact not just on the server or workstation that's being configured, but also all across your entire enterprise network. Now, each change will affect or are affected by a myriad of other factors within your organization. So, to help understand the impact and effect that change is going to have on your business operations, it's really important that you know who the crucial stakeholders are. Now, a stakeholder is any person who has a vested interest in the proposed change. The stakeholder may have a vested interest because they're directly impacted by the proposed change or because they have a role in its assessment or implementation. These individuals or teams must be consulted and their feedback considered, as well as their concerns getting addressed before you implement a change. For example, if I want to perform a software update on our practice exam engine at DionTraining.com, technically, there is nothing that's going to stop me from pushing out that update to the code right now as I'm talking to you without asking anybody else's permission. But that's probably not a good idea because there are a lot of stakeholders that will be affected by me implementing that change. Let's pretend that when I push out the software update to my server, it's going to require us to reboot that server, which will have that change to be able to take effect. But that reboot may take about 5 minutes to occur. And that means that none of our students around the world will be able to take a practice exam during that 5 minutes of downtime while that server is being rebooted. Similarly, if I push out a new feature as part of that update, we need to actually train our end users, which in this case would be our students, on how to use those new features. Similarly, we're also going to need to consult with our student support team to ensure that they know how to answer any potential questions that might arise because of this software update, and we may need to send out a message ahead of time to warn all of our students that our system is going to be updated on a certain day and time, and that there's going to be a potential downtime of up to 5 minutes during that window. As you can see, there are going to be technical stakeholders, like the developers who run the servers and write the code. There's also going to be business stakeholders, like our student support team. And we also have end user-based stakeholders, like our students in this example. And all of these need to be either consulted or informed of this upcoming software change to our practice exam engine before we make that change. Now, an integral part of the change management process is the impact analysis. Before setting all the wheels of change in motion on any proposed change, you really do need to understand the potential fallout. You need to ask yourself, what could go wrong? And if that happened, what would be the immediate effects to our organization, its business processes, its reputation, and its users? How will our long-term operations be impacted? Are there any unforeseen challenges lurking in the shadows that might cause an issue for us? All of these are things that we're going to do during our impact analysis. And by conducting that impact analysis, we're going to try to answer all of these questions so our organization is not just prepared for the proposed change, but also they're poised to be able to maximize the benefits of that given change. So remember, change management is not merely a corporate buzzword, but it really is a critical process that can help guide you and your organization safely through any potential changes or transformations that you need for your business. While all of our organizations want to improve themselves and progress over time, it is the implementation of structured changes through the proper assessment and collaborative decision-making process that's led by your change advisory board that really is at the center of every change that we're going to try to implement in our organizations. Through the diligent application of these change management principles, organizations can not only adapt, but thrive. And all the while, they'll be able to turn challenges into opportunities and uncertainties surrounding a proposed change into a defined pathway forward.